So Bitcoin just took a tumble, breaking into new lows compared to its previous low. And a lot of people may think that doesn't mean much, but that actually can give some really good insight as to what's next coming up for Bitcoin. So in today's video, I want to show you last week's clip for one, because I did say this exact thing would happen last week. And it's not like I'm some crystal ball holding magician. I even said in last week's video, I could have been completely wrong, but I had a technical sign telling me that that was likely to happen, and it ended up playing out well. Call it luck, call it skill. I call it skill. But I will play you a clip from last week's video, and then we're going to talk about what I'm expecting next here out of Bitcoin and some ways we can jump back on the trend whenever it starts moving back up. I have two different ways I'm planning to do so, and I want to share those with you today. So if that sounds good, then just go ahead and click that like button, click subscribe for me. It's down below the video to the right-hand side, and we will jump right in. So as I said, here on the chart of Bitcoin, we have a big indication that this market could be heading lower. If you're familiar with technical analysis and with trend identification, you may already see what I'm talking about. If you're not, let me help you out. So in a trending market, what we will see while the market continues to trend is the market making highs, lows, followed by higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and higher highs. As long as this continues to happen, we continue seeing higher highs and higher lows on any particular financial market, then that trend is considered to be in what we call an uptrend, and has a very high likelihood of continuing that trend as long as this continues to be the case. One of the biggest indications that an uptrend is over and that we could see a reversal is when the market breaks through a previous level of support or the previous swing low. We can see that break right here. So if you look at the chart with me, you can see that we have a previous low here. This was our higher low. Then the market pushed down, and instead of being supported before breaking this higher low, the market actually broke and closed below that higher low. You see, if now what we have is bears or sellers taking control to the point that they push this market below the previous level of support, then that shows us that we could likely see a reversal and a start to trend down. Now, does this mean that I think Bitcoin's going to crash to zero? No, not at all. But do I think that we could have an extreme pullback here? I do. I think this could be a big correction that this market has been needing for a while now. So with that being the case, so here on Bitcoin, what happened today is we actually broke into new lows in comparison to the previous low, which was right here. Now, we didn't close below this level, but as we talked about last week, if you watched the video, if not, there's a link in the top right-hand corner of the screen. I'm gonna play a clip from it anyway in a second, but we were talking about this market breaking below this low and closing below it. And what I said in last week's video was the market had pushed up to this level, and I said, since we have now made new lows, and this is literally the first time this market has done this since March of 2020, that the sentiment of this market had changed, at least for the time being. It doesn't mean it changed forever. It doesn't mean Bitcoin is going to zero, but for now, the sentiment of Bitcoin has changed from being bullish and buyers, taking control at higher prices to buyers not being able to take control at higher prices and going into new lows. That has now happened again. Now we've had a lower high here in comparison to our previous high, and the market's pushed down to a lower low in comparison to our previous low. Now, what this indicates is that we're going to see a little bit of continued movement down. Again, no one has a crystal ball, and I don't think you should follow or listen to anyone that says they know exactly what's going to happen on Bitcoin or any other market unless they have some kind of insider information outside of illegally telling you things. There's no way you should ever listen to someone that says they know what's going to happen. I will sit here and tell you, I've been trading for a decade. I have no idea what Bitcoin's going to do. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It's not our job to have a crystal ball as traders and know exactly what's going to happen. We are to predict and react accordingly. So prediction-wise, considering the technical bias that I'm seeing on the chart, this market just breaking into new lows after creating a lower high, considering the previous high, I think we still have a little bit of room to the downside. I talked about this last week as well. One of the ways I plan to jump back on this Bitcoin train, if you will, or is it a Bitcoin plane because that shit just goes up and up for a long period of time before finally crash landing like we have recently. But one of the things I'm planning to do is, if we do get some continued lower movement and we push down between the area of around 40 and 43,000, that's a big area of support for me that I'm going to look for some buying opportunities to buy back into Bitcoin at a major value, considering what I assume the value of this cryptocurrency is. So the reasons for that is not just because I assume the value of Bitcoin is super high. One of the biggest reasons for that is the fact that we have structure looking left. If you didn't know this yet, and if you're not a frequent follower of TTC, the trading channel, I am a strictly technical trader. I look at technical analysis and overall market psychology, and then I make decisions based on that. So at this point, we have a lot of structure, resistance, and support looking left in this area. And these areas of resistance and support that are major structure tend to act as resistance or support again when they're hit again. So if Bitcoin comes back down between 40 and 43,000, I do believe that'll be a place we can get a nice pop out of Bitcoin. If not, a complete push higher back into the $60,000 range. So with that being the case, one of the things I'm looking for moving forward over the next week or so on Bitcoin is a pullback into between $43,000 and $40,000. Now, what if that's not right? So remember, our jobs is not for me to go, I know for a fact that Bitcoin's going to 40K between that and 43, and I'm going to buy it. I don't know. Bitcoin could shoot up from here right now. My job is not to know what's going to happen, is to prepare for both of those scenarios. You make a prediction, and then you prepare for your prediction being right and your prediction being wrong. You would be amazed at how much better at trading you'll be if you start looking at it like that, instead of just reading hype news and buying and selling and hoping for the best. At that point, you're just gambling. So instead of gambling, make a prediction. After you make your prediction, react on a decision for what you're going to do if your prediction's right, and a decision for what you're going to do if your prediction wrong. My current prediction is a push down. I know what I'm going to do. I'm buying in this area. What if I'm wrong and we push higher? A really cool way that I at least have been utilizing lower time frames on cryptocurrency is I'll go down to the hourly chart. So right now I'm on the daily chart. This is where I figure out the trend and major structure levels on all markets that I trade, including crypto. I'm big in Forex. If you've never been on the channel before, that's normally what I'm doing videos on. But I'll drop down to the hourly chart, and something I've noticed that works really well on cryptocurrency is on the hourly chart. Once we get a push above this right here, the blue line is the 50 period EMA or exponential moving average. It can act as support and resistance. It can also act as a really good trend filter if you know how to use it properly. It's not the holy grail, but it's a rule we can use to be consistent in our trading. That's pretty much what it gives us. And it can act as support and resistance. Back to what I was saying though, on the hourly chart, I'll be waiting on Bitcoin to push above the 50 period moving average. At the point that that happens, I'll be waiting on the first pullback and a sign of buying pressure right here. And this will be the 50 period moving average. At that sign of buying pressure, I will buy and ride this trend up if it continues to the upside. So this is the preparation for if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong and the market doesn't head lower, then I'm prepared to take advantage of that anyway. It doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. I know how I'm going to take advantage of Bitcoin in either situation. Another really important thing to factor in here is I'm not buying Bitcoin at around 54,000 and hoping it goes up with absolutely no risk management or stop loss. And if it goes to zero, I lose all my money. And I don't think Bitcoin's going to zero. The reason I pointed that out is I will also be preparing for being wrong whenever I enter this trade. Okay. Let's say I enter a trade right here at 54,000. I don't want to be in this trade if we then push back below the 50 period moving average. So what if this happens and then we get a push down? I don't want to be in the trade below the 50, so I will have what's called a stop loss at around 52.5. And that stop loss will limit my risk to a very small amount compared to my overall position size. I could buy 2 or 3 Bitcoin here at 54,000. If I had this small of a stop loss, I'd only lose about $6,000. out of that $150,000 I would have invested. So this is the power of setting yourself up with a limited risk. And yeah, it sucks if I were to lose that money and then Bitcoin bounced back. But if you're going to be a consistently profitable trader, you better learn how to use stop losses, because there's also a scenario where this thing just keeps pushing down. It's not likely, but it's possible. And the further it goes, the more emotional you'll get. The more emotional you'll get, the easier it is for you to make a mistake. And then you're going to make a mistake and you're going to get out, and then it's going to shoot higher. Just telling you what I've already been through in the past whenever I first started trading. In the case of, back out to the daily chart, the market, as in Bitcoin, heading down to this in between, let's call it 41,000 range. At that point, I'll be looking for some kind of buying pressure. Price action patterns is what I use in most markets, like double bottoms in this region. When I get that, again, I'm going to prepare for being wrong about the market pushing up here by putting a stop loss below this. For those of you who follow me in Forex, a lot of this is remedial. A lot of this is stuff that I've already talked about, but I know there are a ton of new traders in crypto, and I want to make them aware of the importance of stop losses and risk management, and not YOLOing on Dogecoin and then seeing some kind of flash crash and losing half of your life savings. That's not what we want to do in any capacity when we're trading in any market. You want to be someone who has a solid risk management plan. But I just wanted to give you guys my ideas on what I'm doing next here on Bitcoin, teach you a little bit about risk management and how to use stop losses. Coinbase Pro actually, let me go ahead. No, I'll do that in the next video. If you want to see the next video and you want to see me show you how to place stop losses in Coinbase Pro, that's the platform I'm using at the moment. And if you want to see that, just make sure to leave me a comment below and tell me that. I think that's all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope it was valuable in some way, shape, or form. If it was, make sure to leave that like, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See y'all soon.